piss hot. So, you just got to be ready to go. And that's reality. That is the way it is.
Woke up with my piss hot. What a way to start. Sweat on my forehead, racing hard. Woke up with my piss hot. Ready to ignite. Let's raise some hell. Let's own the night.
Daniels, just a rookie. 26 out of 30. 87%, 231 yards. He rushes for 47. He's doing everything. Shredded, baby. CJ Stroud, 345 yards. Brings the Texans back. Wins it at the buzzer. Shred him, Stroud.
Welcome back to Fantasy Football by Committee, powered by Flurry Sports. It can be tough to win a fantasy league on your own, but at FFBC, we will work together to bring home the hardware. Hosted by Zach Bruner and the rest of the Flurry Sports crew, we will give top-level analysis, answer your questions, and, well, go off on other tangents.
That was after I tried to get ChatGPT to admit that 9/11 was an inside job, but it stood firm. It gave quite a few solid points that it was true.
Welcome to Fantasy Football by Committee. The show starts in 3, 2, 1.
What's up, everybody? Happy week 14. Probably your last week until the fantasy playoffs. So hopefully you win. Hopefully you didn't get screwed over by your league. And hopefully you didn't get screwed over by some crappy experts' rankings. Cough, cough, maybe me last week. Questionable how some things are measured, but nonetheless, welcome to the Wednesday Rankings Show. Luke Rammer in the middle, Trevor Land on the right. I am Zach Bruner, and we're here for one final regular season week. We'll continue through the fantasy playoffs. We'll have other stuff. Probably focus less on rankings maybe during the fantasy playoffs. It's totally up to what you guys have questions about. So if you are here live, if you're here after the fact, ask questions. And if you have ideas for next week's show and weeks after that, definitely give that to us as well. We can focus more on DFS if you would like that. If, maybe your season long leagues are, didn't make it. Maybe you have a first round bye and you're bored and you just want to play some DFS. We can help you out there, whether it's sports betting. But if you want to do start, sit, fantasy football stuff, obviously, we will continue to do that as well, like we will do tonight. We'll give you some underdog picks. And Jorge, George, however you pronounce your name, please let me know that because, you're here all the time. I would love to pronounce your name correctly. Get to your question in 1 second. If you're listening to this before Friday, please go to volume1.org/best of. And under best podcast, local podcast, you can vote for a variety of Flurry Sports shows, as many emails as you have, as many Facebook logins as you have. Log in, vote for best local podcast for sure. For sure, vote for Flurry Sports Podcast and Lombardi Sweep. You can vote for Fantasy Football by Committee, and I Don't Think So as well. All four are produced by us. Flurry Sports Podcast and Lombardi Sweep, though. Let's get those 1 and 2 so we can accept those awards at the live award show. And that'll be fun. That'll be chaotic. That'll be amazing content for you. I can promise you that. But let's jump in right away. Pronounce the English way, Hispanic parents. So George asks, sitting Brees over Georgie. Yes, of course. Sitting Brees over Pollard and Guerendo. I mean, I can't. I personally would for sure play him over Pollard.
I'm playing Brees over both of them.
Oh, okay. He's asking or considering sitting Brees over both. I think I'd play him over Pollard for sure. Over Guerendo, I do. Obviously it seems like you're starting two, so I'd play Guerendo and Brees. But holy crap, Brees Hall's been bad.
Very bad.
I mean, there's no way about it. Trevor, what's your thoughts?
I'm in the exact same boat. I think Tyjae Spears is coming back this week, right? Did I read correctly? So I mean, if he's coming back, I hate Pollard even more. So I'm starting Brees over him, but not over Guerendo. Shout out, former Badger. Shout out.
Yeah, it would be nice if he ended as a Badger. I'd be more excited about that at that point. But yeah, for sure. But yeah, I'd play those two. Grendo, I'm still not fully sold on. I think he's going to be given every opportunity to run away with this, pun intended. But like a Bani Kanda, I think is more talented than him. He's just going to have to figure out the zone scheme and stuff like that. But I don't know. We'll see. 49ers, it's also a bad team, right? Like it's not like it's a good offense. So there's obviously concerns with that as well. But in terms of your case, you're talking about running backs on bad offenses all around. So does not really matter in this case. But do you guys have anything to talk about before we jump into quarterbacks? If anyone watching is in Wisconsin, sorry.
Good luck on the roads.
Yeah, good luck on the roads. Hopefully you're not watching this while you are driving. And if you are, maybe that's good too.
A 40-minute drive home from work took me an hour and 20 minutes today.
It's bad.
Yeah.
It's bad out. It's just an ice storm. It's just gross. Not fun shit. I wish it was a Lambeau game tomorrow night. But instead it's going to be in Detroit. So that'll be good. That'll be fine. Okay, let's jump into quarterbacks here. I have Josh Allen at number 1 at the Rams. We all projected he would get a passing and receiving touchdown last week. So that's why he's number 1 2 weeks in a row. I have Jalen Hurts number 2 versus the Panthers. Joe Burrow 3 at the Cowboys. Baker Mayfield 4 versus the Raiders. And I have currently Kyler Murray 5 versus the Seahawks, though I'm really tempted to put Sam Darnold there versus the Falcons. He's at number 6 for me. I like Sam Darnold and the Vikings offense quite a bit against Atlanta. But Luke, what do you think of those 5 or 6 quarterbacks?
Well, I'm in a spot here in one of my guillotine leagues in top 5. Lamar Jackson's out. I've Baker Mayfield's been on my bench all year long, and I just spent no money, picked up Kyler Murray. Do you guys have any strong opinion on who over the other? Like to me, you had Baker at 4 and Kyler at 5. Like if Arizona wants to run the ball with Kyler Murray, there's like absolutely nothing on the Seattle defense that's stopping that.
No, I mean the only thing I'll say is he was fine against the Seahawks a couple of weeks ago. It's just the fantasy stats weren't there because he didn't score a touchdown. Cardinals struggled against them. That was the game where Connor had like 7 carries for 8 yards or something like that. I think he's going to be a lot better than that. It's hard to be worse than that. But him versus Baker could fall into that trap where, they just run it over and over against the Panthers. Panthers have been better, but that's my only worry for Baker. If the Panthers show up and are competitive again, he should be able to pass all over them.
Yeah.
That's why he's higher for me. But I don't have a strong feeling. Do you, Trevor?
I don't really have an opinion either way. I think they are right next to each other. I'd go Baker Mayfield a little bit just because in the fact you might trust him a little more. Especially, I believe Kyler Murray's playing Seattle again, right?
Yeah.
I don't think it's possible for that offense to be as bad as it was last time they played Seattle, but fool me once, fool me twice. So I don't want to pick Kyler Murray again against the Seattle defense.
And George is starting Jordan Love over Kyler Murray for me. Don't do that for me. Packer fan, all 3 Packer fans, not all 3 Jordan Love fans. That's all I'll say. Even though he's the best deep ball thrower in the NFL, according to Matt Bowen or something of ESPN. That was he must have drawn names out of a hat. I'm not sure what that was about. Some of those are insane. There's 102 like superlatives or whatever it is for NFL players on ESPN right now. I would not buy ESPN Plus to read that. It's not like he chose one player for each thing. Like he doubled up, tripled up, quadrupled up on a lot of players. No reason to do that with Jordan Love, but is what it is. That's fine.
I also like Joe Burrow at 3. Like if you're in a spot where maybe you need to win to get in the playoffs and you can have Joe Burrow Monday night, that is going to be an incredible fucking game to watch.
That could be a very fun game.
Yeah.
On both sides, I think.
Yep.
Cowboys are playing well. They're balling right now. We'll get to CeeDee Lamb in a little bit. I have CeeDee lower than everybody, and I could be tempted to bring him higher, But right now, it's like the Cowboys are doing everything except for feed CeeDee Lamb, and it's working.
And they're winning doing it.
Yeah, so I don't know why that would change, and I don't know why the Bengals would key on anybody else but CeeDee Lamb. So I'm not sure there. But yeah, other quarterbacks. I know I'm lower on Jordan Love than the consensus. Let's talk about that. I have him. Okay, so consensus is 7. I have him at 10. I think I'm going to move him even lower. He plays the Lions, obviously, tomorrow night. Struggled against the Lions the first time. Lions defense is insanely beat up. They're injured all over. The only team that could rival their injuries maybe is the 49ers, but I think the Lions have maybe 19 people on IR now, maybe more than that. It's insane. I still don't really trust Jordan Love against this Lions defense, and he doesn't have Romeo Doubs, which I do think is a big deal. Yeah, I don't know. I really don't trust it. I don't trust it to be a top 10 week, and I don't trust this to be a high scoring shootout like some people are projecting either. Do you guys have any leans about that? We'll talk about that obviously in Lombardi sweep in about an hour as well. But
No,
I'm not
I
here
mean,
for it.
right. The focus of both teams' offenses is to run the ball, and both teams have been running the ball very well as of late. So
Mhm.
I would guess it's a lot of hard nosed offensive line play. I think if you have to start Jordan Love this week, I think you're fine. Like I don't necessarily know that
Sure.
I don't necessarily know he's going to go for 35 and get you into the playoffs. I don't necessarily know that he's going to go for 6 and put a stinker up. It kind of feels like a 12 to 16 point game somewhere in there. It feels like a middle of the pack game. Like I said, if you have to start him, I think you're fine. But yeah, I mean, like I'm not confident if I have to if he's kind of been, I guess probably not, but if he's kind of been carrying you a little bit, I don't necessarily know that he's kind of the X factor for your team this week.
Yeah, and I think alternatively, and I think you guys are kind of alluding to this too, you have the Lions defense. I'm not benching them. I'm just not. The Packers are turnover happy. They make mistakes. You get behind the sticks. The Lions are going to get sacks this game. I don't think that's personally a question, although they did have two or like 3 huge defensive players go down this past week. But Jordan Love's trying to thread the ball through tight spaces. It has worked to this point. But are you telling me that, which is more likely, he throws 0 or he throws 2? I'm going to lean to the side of 2. So I think their defense is a safe bet as well.
Yeah, I mean, if the Lions somehow fully stop the run, that's when Jordan Love can get, wrongfully aggressive. I'm not exactly sure how to explain it. Like he forces things that don't necessarily need to be forced. That's where he gets into those situations. I'm not afraid of the Lions pass rush in the slightest. It might be a bottom 2 or 3 pass rush in the NFL. I'm not afraid of their D-backs. I'm not afraid of anything on this defense whatsoever other than maybe Aaron Glenn. I think he's a really good defensive coordinator, and I'm afraid of the Packers beating themselves. But that's about it. Like, even with all of that, like, I don't know. This just feels like a really, really gross Thursday night football game to me. I don't think either team's going to fully show up at all. Too many distractions. And by the way, first off, the leaking of play calls or signals overblown. But at the same time, there's going to be time spent on that from both teams.
For sure.
Like, that's something scouting departments already pay attention to. So the Packers theoretically should have had all of those calls already anyways, especially playing them for the second time. However, there's confirmation there. So now they're going to study it a little bit more. Lions, it's very Lions to not change a damn thing and go in there with a little bit of arrogance and use the long week to maybe change some things for next week. But if they don't do that and they want to add some other stuff in there, if they want to change the meaning of the calls, that's unneeded time on a short week.
Right.
Like, this is a weird divisional football game. It could be very low scoring. It could be very sloppy. And if I can stay away from it, I'm going to try to. I don't like this game at all.
I agree with you.
And I'm obviously critical of the Packers. I'm very favorable of the Lions. I think it feels like the Packers game to win. I don't know. It really does. We'll see. Other quarterbacks to talk about. Trevor Lawrence out for the year with a bad team, essentially. That's why he's sitting.
Sorry. I hate Trevor Lawrence.
Me too. Fucking can't stand him.
Yeah.
Never liked him. And now I like him even less. And it's not even really, it is his fault, but it's mostly his fans' fault. Kirk Cousins, do we have any interest
No,
in him on a revenge game?
He's Matt Ryan 2.0 in Atlanta.
Yeah. Last week really changed it didn't change my opinions, but like I'm hating him quite a bit after last week.
Yeah, it was odd, not odd, but it was kind of it was a game that we haven't seen in a while where they gave Bijan Robinson 26 carries. Tyler Algier got 1. So that's obviously a focal point too, right? Like they need to win games. They're going to try to get the ball to their. I guess you could call Bijan Robinson their best weapon on offense, which I don't necessarily know is true. So I'm wondering if instead of passing, like it's ground game as much as possible from now on for Atlanta.
Maybe, but if they're going to just try to run it against the Vikings, I don't think that works.
Right, correct.
Like this is another game. It's weird. It's really weird. I think Atlanta's defense is going to get torched, but in terms of Falcons offense versus Vikings defense, Kirk Cousins should go crazy if they just block up front. I'm not convinced he
That's the
will
problem.
make the right decisions. And the blocking as well. I'm not convinced. This is a weird, potentially, playoff game for a lot of fantasy people.
For as much shit as people want to talk about the Vikings, whatever, maybe some of it's true. Like the defense is still pretty fucking good, pretty good unit in the NFL. I think that's kind of what's carrying them to wins here. Just they're doing what the Vikings do. They get into 1-score games, and one year they win them all, the next year they lose them all. Last year they lost them all, this year they're winning them all. So I think the defense is keeping them alive. And I think if you have any offensive players, I guess a quarterback and running back going up against the Vikings defense, I don't feel like you're very comfortable.
You shouldn't be. They play their scheme really well, and their defense, their starters are pretty good. Their front seven's pretty good. Their corners still stink, but if their offense gets home or defensive line gets home, it doesn't really matter at this point. Compared to the consensus, I'm not any too crazy different. Like I said, I'm 3 lower on Jordan Love at 10. I'm 3 lower on Russell Wilson at 15. I don't know why people are pushing Russell Wilson to be a top 10 guy this week. I understand he's coming off of a very good week. I also understand he's playing the Browns for the second time in 3 weeks. And that, to me, favors the defense more than the offense. And he didn't do good the first time. I'm 3 higher on Will Levis at 13. Luke, I know you wrote him up in your streamers article. I'm in agreement with you for the most part. But do you want to say anything about Will Levis?
Well, I mean, like at this point, it kind of feels like Jacksonville is the worst team in the NFL right now. I think Tennessee can probably do whatever they want to this defense. I mean, Calvin Ridley's been a stud for the last couple of weeks. Nick Westbrook-Ikine, all he does is catch touchdowns. Like Will Levis has, I think it was 6 touchdowns in the last 4 games or something, or 3 games, something like that. I just don't see the Jacksonville being able to stop this offense at all, and I think that bodes well for Will Levis.
I agree with that. Trevor, any thoughts on Will Levis?
I mean, for fantasy purposes, he's not bad, right? I mean, he has to sling the rock. If they're going to win the game, he gets some good game scripts every once in a while. Yeah, he'll do some dumb shit that you just can't imagine. But he's passing for touchdowns. He's racking up yards. I mean, there are a lot worse quarterbacks that can be manning your fantasy team right now.
This is a very good question from Peter here. Will I still be allowed to watch your show and post comments if I start Jordan Love over Baker this week? And we will debate that. He also says already have a playoff spot locked up, and it makes more sense as a Packers fan. It's going to be more fun to watch.
I'm with it.
The second half of that really saved you, I think. If you got it locked up, you got a player in prime time, watch the player in prime time. It does make it more fun, and you're a fan of them. That's fine. You can still watch and comment.
I have a weird thing that I don't know if I've ever experienced it in fantasy football before. In one of my leagues, the winners of each division, they get the 2 buys. 12-team league, 6 teams make playoffs. So I'm the only one who's going to make the playoffs out of my division. So I already have the playoffs and the bye locked up. So I'm off for 2 weeks here, just doing nothing.
That is weird.
It's still the regular season, but I have a guaranteed spot to the Final Four.
You got to keep your guys locked in. You can't, have a little bit of a layoff here. You got to make sure you come out ready. So
Mhm.
I would, take this week off. That's fine. Like, you don't even need to start your guys, rest them. Next week, you got to pretend it's a real matchup.
Yeah, you're right.
You know what I mean? You got to get them ready to go. You got to make your pickups, make your debates on who to start, sit, all that. You got to have the boys ready. Simulate a real game scenario. Scrimmage a local high school. Doesn't
You're right.
Because the other problem, and I've had this happen too many times, is you start them, you don't give your guys any rest, and they just come out flat. And you can't have that either. So double bye is tough, but you gotta figure it out.
College football playoff, there's teams that are going to be off for like a month.
Mhm.
It's insane. That is terrible. I can't even imagine. If I'm those coaches, I'm pissed.
For
What
sure.
do you do? And could you imagine if it was Georgia with a month off, how many players?
Yeah, they wouldn't have a team.
Yeah, not to be crass, but killing people with cars? Like, it would be insane. It would be, what a story. So good on Georgia for not playing well this year and not having that month off. That's great. It's good for them. Any other quarterbacks to talk about other than Georgia's quarterback? Carson Beck out after that doesn't like to watch football clip. Did you guys see that? Hate that.
No.
They asked him about something that happened or something. I don't know. He just says, I don't really like to watch football. And then he backtracked, fuck out of here. Are you kidding me? Kirby Smart wants to kill this guy.
What do people do if they don't watch football?
What does a quarterback do? His reason was he doesn't watch football for fun and he stresses out too much about it when he watches it. Fuck you.
Yeah.
What's your deal? You're not a football guy. Just say that. He looks like a soccer player anyways. He's just a soccer guy.
If I'm hearing, as somebody who's going to draft a quarterback, that my quarterback can't watch football because that stresses him out, I do not want him anywhere near an NFL football team.
Well,
are you kidding me?
I mean, if you're gonna self-admit not be a football guy, you have to do it like Josh Rosen and just talk about hanging out in his hot tub in his dorm room with
Hot tub.
chicks instead of not watching football.
Mm-hmm. At least you know what you're gonna get. This guy is I don't know, prima donna, doesn't love football. It's, to me, it sounds like he's in it for the money. Like, he doesn't like football.
Listen,
love ball.
He is with one of the Cavender twins, so it would add up. It would make sense.
Yeah, what are they in their 9th year of eligibility?
Yeah, averaging 4 points a game in Miami. All right, never mind.
Yeah, good for them. Gary, what's up? Quarterback's toughest spot
Gary.
this week has Herbert in quite a few leagues.
Yeah, me
just
too.
put up a dud against Lads banged up at Kansas City. More confident in him than Purdy and Tua at home. Does anybody have any confidence in Purdy? That's the one guy this week I was looking to rank him. I kind of want to put him at 28, and there's only 26 starting quarterbacks this week. I don't trust him.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. No, to answer your question, no, I don't trust him at all.
Dolphins play the Jets, so you have
Don't love
Tua
that
against
either.
the Jets. Yeah, Herbert last week. Lad's banged up. I think Lad's fine. It was such a weird week because the Falcons, a team who has absolutely no pass rush whatsoever, they just brought the house every single time. They finally got a pass rush, sacked Herbert 5 times, and it's because they just didn't respect the Chargers receiving core whatsoever, and rightfully so. So does that happen again this week?
Who do the Chargers have this week?
The Chargers have the Chiefs. So good defense, smart defense. I currently have Herbert at what? I have him at 9.
Gary, I'm assuming I'm asking this question because you have to win this week, obviously.
I talked to Gary on Twitter a lot. He has a lot of leagues that he absolutely has to win this week. So I'm only assuming this is a must-win week for him.
Okay.
But yeah, I have Herbert at 9, Jordan Love at 10, Tua at 11. Those are 3 guys I don't trust a single one.
I think I'm rolling Justin Herbert this week. I mean, I agree. It's 3 tough options here, right? But I mean, we just saw Aiden O'Connell go for 300 against the Chiefs defense. If there's any bright spot that I have to make a point off of, I think Jim Harbaugh is smart enough to know that the Chargers kind of got lucky, right? They kind of got lucky last week that Kirk Cousins was just handing the defense the ball. But He has to know that you bring running backs in to help pass block. Yes, I am concerned about Herbert, but not as concerned as I am about Tua and Purdy.
That's fair. I just looked up Herbert versus the Chiefs, and last 2 games against the Chiefs, he's been held under 60% completion rate. First game this year, it was 171 and 1 touchdown, completing 59% of his passes. Last year, he only played 1 game against them in Arrowhead. This game will be in Arrowhead. 56% completion, 259, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. He's been sacked quite a bit against these guys. So
If I remember correctly, wasn't that the game he got his ribs really banged up in that game and he played through it and was just getting the snot kicked out of him?
I think that's every game.
That's true. I have no reason to say this. I'm firing up Tua out of all these guys. I should be scared of the Jets, but they do everything they can to screw up in every single possible. Like, there is no way they should have lost last week, and I feel like I've said that every week of the season. So, like, if I'm picking a quarterback here, KC is competent. Purdy, we have no love in. Like, I don't love Tua, but I know the Jets are going to do everything they can to screw up this game, and so I'll roll with him.
I might get very bold and there might be a pretty big shakeup tonight. I might move Herbert from 9 and Jordan Love at 10 below Tua, who's currently at 11. I might move them both on their Caleb Williams, who's at 12. And then Will Levis is at 13. I might play Will Levis over them. Number 14 right now currently is Brock Purdy. And like I said, I don't know what to do with Brock Purdy. He plays the Bears. The Bears just fired their defensive coach.
Crazy.
I don't trust Purdy. But if there's 1 week for the 49ers to just beat the shit out of a team,
It'd be awesome.
I would love it if it was the Bears.
Yeah.
I don't know. But okay, Gary, play Tua. In short, I think I trust Tua more than Herbert because he's going to have those quick passes. He's just going to get to guys in space, and then we've seen the biggest thing about this Jets defense all year long. Like, they're very good in coverage, but they can't tackle. So if you're saying you're going to get A-Chain, Tyreek, Waddle in space, they're probably going to miss some tackles. So that's what I'm going to bank on, I think. Okay, running backs here. Keep questions coming about anything, fantasy or not. We'll answer them. I currently have Saquon right now at 1 versus the Panthers, A-Chain 2 versus the Jets, Kamara 3 at the Giants. And then it gets weird for me. Chase Brown 4 at the Cowboys, and then Jahmyr Gibbs 5 tomorrow versus the Packers. Any thoughts about those 5, Trevor?
I mean, Saquon's 1 even if he doesn't get the ball at the 1 yard line, which he won't because they do the tush push all the time. But like Saquon against Carolina, Philadelphia should be able to run for like 300 yards in this game, if we're being honest. I think Saquon, he might be number 1 running back this week, even without a touchdown. I love him. I think he's a clear number 1, and then I think it's just him, Achane, and then everybody else. Not that the others aren't that good. It's just that I am that confident in the top 2.
Yeah, I think that this is a game where Philly kind of shows that we're one of the better teams in the NFL, and the Panthers kind of show that we're still, even though we're playing good, we're still one of the worst teams in the NFL. Like, this game might be 350-0. I think this is a huge fantasy game for all Philadelphia players, to be honest. Like, I think they can run all over him, they can pass all over him, do whatever. I'd probably all start to Saquon Barkley, so I love him at 1. Jahmyr Gibbs, I just for my curiosity, I assume David Montgomery's top 10?
I currently have him at 13. I'll move him up a little bit. He is usually insane against the Packers, except for earlier this year. He wasn't that great.
Yeah. Okay. And then Chase, I love Chase Brown to score a touchdown too. Like I said, with Burrow, it's an incredible game if you have Bengals. I think the Bengals can move the ball downfield. They're not really, they're not totally out of the playoffs right yet, but they're not really playing for anything. But Joe Burrow seems like a kind of guy who's like, go out there and say like, yeah, let's win every game. Let's fucking kick their ass. I don't care where we're at. So yeah, and nothing scares me on Dallas either. So yeah, I'm in it. I'm in for Chase Brown.
Yeah, I'm just not afraid of Dallas at this point. And I do think they're going to continue to reduce. Well, we saw last week Chase Brown had a reduced role. That's why I ranked him pretty low. And he ended up finishing as what, running back 10, just
Yeah.
because he had that big play, which pissed me off. But that's my only worry. I think they are going to reduce his workload a little bit because I think they've seen enough out of him where they want him to be the starter next year. And at this point, what are we playing for? So that's my only worry there. Gibbs continues to be one of three, like the three most consistent running backs in fantasy. He's been insane, and I think it's only going to continue. And he's at home, which is good. Gary, really quick, Tua over Caleb 2, I think yes.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's always that post head coach firing bump for teams, but we're talking about a guy who was a passing coordinator to start the year for this team, is now the head coach, and he's the play caller. He's doing all these things. There's just going to be so many responsibilities and shit that he has to deal with. And it's against the 49ers, who are extremely banged up, but they're just better coached.
Yeah, it's hard to ask a rookie quarterback to help you out with it too.
Yeah. There's just too many things here. Like, the Bears could come out and absolutely embarrass the 49ers. I get it. But what's the most likely scenario? The most likely scenario is the Bears are the Bears.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
Speaking of that game specifically, I have Grendo ranked at 11. I like him a lot. I'm 8 spots higher than the consensus. So the consensus has him as running back 19. This is an interesting one to talk about, I think. Are you guys more aligned with me in terms of he's borderline top 10, or do you think he's a very clear running back too?
Well, I think for as much as bad, I guess not as San Francisco has looked compared to what they have been in the past. Like, the one thing that kind of has been working for them is running the ball lately. Like, Christian McCaffrey was off to 2 great starts against Green Bay, and last week injuries suck, whatever. But I mean, Jordan Mason came in; he's fine. Like, I think even without Trent Williams, the offense line's blocking fine, at least in a run scheme. And I'm always in the mindset that, unless you're a guy like Saquon Barkley, like Derrick Henry, a Hall of Fame running back, I think you can plug and place guys. If you can hit a hole, you can hit a hole. And I think Isaac Grendo at least can do that. So can I see, 90 yards out of him? Absolutely. Can I see 60 yards and a touchdown out of him? Absolutely. And right there, that's starting fantasy numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have too much to add from Luke. He's definitely a starter. I mean, we know that. Is he going to be a top 5 guy? Absolutely not. I think a lot of people put too much fab on him this week. I do think that's true. I think we need to, slow the roll a little bit, but he should be able to get involved against the Bears. And, to Luke's point, I think 60 yards and a touchdown, it's tough to say that's his floor. But I wouldn't say that, but I'd say I feel very safe that he gets at least that.
I think that's his floor. And I mean, if you have fab still, what are you spending it on? Like, it's week 14, spend it. I mean, there's what are you waiting for? This is a guy who's coming into the 49ers as the starter, very clearly could be a league winner. So he is still written up in streamers because he is still owned in under 60% of ESPN leagues, at least as of this morning. Check out your fantasy league. If he's out there, I think go for it. Like I said earlier, I think Abanikanda might be more talented than Grendo, but Grendo has more time in the scheme. And this is not like a very, very simple scheme. It does take a lot of timing and understanding of how to sell and which hole to hit and stuff like that. So you can just plug and play a little bit, but to actually thrive, I think it does take a little bit. The whole thing with the Niners the past 2 weeks is that game script wise, they just had to stop running the football.
Right.
Like you said, Luke, like they were running the football very well. McCaffrey looked good both weeks, I thought. And the Bears' whole thing has been that they're starting extremely slow. So if that continues again, like the 49ers aren't going to be, out on being able to run the ball. They should be able to run the ball all 4 quarters, which is awesome. It's just who's going to get the rushing yards. It's probably going to be a 70-30 split. Like,
Yeah.
I think Garendo's going to get as much as he can handle. And the Niners are very clearly not shy about wanting to stick with one guy. When it was Mason, they just gave him as much as he could handle. Probably the same thing with Garendo this week. At worst, 70-30. So
I agree. I also don't hate I wonder what the odds are. I don't hate a Deebo Samuel rushing touchdown in this game either.
I don't either. We'll see. It's just
Also,
they don't have much to play for, and he feels hurt.
well, so let me throw this one at you. He fumbled at the goal line last week. You think Kyle Juszczyk gets another goal line touch?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah,
Why not?
I think so too. I mean, he's their
Feel good.
guy.
That, and I can only assume for a fullback utility guy like that, I can assume he probably has some snap count and like touchdown accelerators in his contract.
Yeah.
And it would be great to try to get him some more money and be like, hey, come back for another year, please.
Right.
Because he's at the end of his career too. Like, he could very easily walk away this year. Let's get him back. Let's make him feel good because he's a big part of this offense as well.
I got a question for you guys about Garendo then. You know, I'm in a league playoff start this week. You know, Bijan, David Montgomery are my running backs.
Good.
I got
Both
Garrett
are good.
Wilson, Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams. Then I have Garendo and Pacheco on the bench. Are any of them seeing the starting lineup over those guys? I'm thinking Garendo over, you know, one of the Jets wide receivers, but it feels like no matter who you pick, the other one's going to go off.
I would play him over Garrett Wilson. I'm
Yeah,
not afraid of
Garrett
that.
Wilson's been bad recently.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, for sure, it feels like if you sit Garrett Wilson, he's going to have a Garrett Wilson like game. But
Trevor, was
I don't
that? Go ahead, Zach. Sorry.
no, it's just like you can't trust targets for Garrett Wilson, whereas I
Yeah.
think you can trust them for Devontae.
Yeah. Trevor, was that last week or 2 weeks ago when you made that trade for Tyreek Hill? We were on the show.
It was 2 weeks ago, and the guy I made the trade with also made out like a bandit because I traded McLaurin and Mixon, so I want to have them all off week 14. He won 3 straight games, and now he has a bye for this week. So now it doesn't even matter. But yeah, in the other league now, I got to decide whether I'm putting them. I think I'm starting Johnny Smith and Juwan Jennings, but do I start him over Garrett Wilson or Jameson Williams or Tyrone Tracy or Aaron Jones? So that team's bad.
I guess my point was being that Tyreek Hill touchdown last week must have been awesome for you. It was great for me.
Yeah.
It was great for me in Scott
time.
Fishbowl too. Helped me out a
Yeah.
lot.
Gary wants to know, he's lived in Seattle for almost 30 years, roots for Ken Walker more than anyone, but I think it's time to bench him. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Probably wouldn't even flex him versus a top 30 wide receiver. That might be a little too far.
Well, would you go him or like Brian Thomas this week?
I'm fully out on Brian Thomas, so I'd go Ken Walker.
Would you go him or Juwan Jennings this week?
Probably Ken Walker.
Yeah.
It's close. He plays Arizona. I'm not afraid of Arizona. I understand they're playing better. I understand they're overperforming. He should be fine. He should be better. He's just not he's not an RB1. He's an RB2. Is he? I think he's slightly better than Travis Etienne.
Yeah,
I guess I could look to see where I have him ranked.
I agree with that.
Okay, I'm moving him down my rankings right now. I have Ken Walker. Boy, Ken Walker or Breece Hall?
Breece.
I think
Breece.
so.
Breece.
Okay. That means I'm going to put Ken Walker at 14. I'm not going to move him below Tyrone Tracy yet. By the end of the week, maybe.
I don't hate Tyrone Tracy this week.
I don't hate him, but I mean, he doesn't excite. I like Rico. You know what? Okay. Rico Dowdle's coming up.
I like Tyrone Tracy has been able to find the end zone. Like, that's why he's been great. And I think he does it again this week.
Ken Walker at Arizona or DeAndre Swift at San Francisco?
I'm going Ken
Well,
Walker.
Swift.
Oh. I mean,
See, that's where it is. It's close.
I'm not touching Swift for the 10-foot ball.
I don't like him. I think 1 or 2 or 3 of those receptions in the PPR can be enough to give him a slight edge. I don't like it either, but
Is Fred Warner out? Or is he still playing? Because didn't he leave last game with another injury? Or was it cramping? It might have been cramping.
I think it was cramping.
Yeah. He's playing with a broken foot or something. But
Broken ankle.
broken ankle. Yeah.
Psychopath.
Yeah. It gets to that point. Good for him. Definitely deserves the C on his chest. All of that. Once you get to this time of the year where it's like you're done, you're not going to play for anything. I don't know how you keep playing. Good for him.
And your team kind of needs you to win a Super Bowl next year.
Right. Like in everybody's best interest, he probably should sit. But I get it.
With the psychopath.
Which two would you flex out of Aaron Jones, Devontae Smith, and Hawkinson? Full PPR for a tight end. Half for the rest. I know you are pretty low on Jones lately, so I assume you would sit him.
No, I'm sitting Devontae Smith. I'm doing it.
I'm sitting Smith too. I mean, he's just been a complete disappointment. I understand he's been hurt too, but I mean, I think you talked about a few weeks ago, Zach, like if he puts up something like a 2 for 10 line, are you surprised? And we're all like, not really. So I don't know how you can trust him.
Yeah. I think I would sit Smith, and that's not saying I trust Aaron Jones. So I don't necessarily trust TJ Hawkinson, to be fair, either. But I just talked up the Vikings offense earlier in the show. I think they can torch the Falcons defense. So I do think Aaron Jones gets in the end zone. Hawkinson is tough. He should be okay. It's not the easiest matchup for him against Atlanta, but he shouldn't have to stay in to chip, Yeah. The Falcons can't rush the passer. So, yeah. So I would go the two Vikings guys. And I'm not afraid of starting two guys on the same team.
No. And especially when one of them you get full point PPR for.
For sure. Another player I'm higher on is James Cook. I have him at 7 currently. Consensus has him at 10. He plays the Rams. I just think he's getting the ball a ton. I think he's making big plays. And the Rams have a couple pretty good D linemen at containing the run, I think. I just think I don't trust the Bills, but I think they're going to move the ball on the Rams.
Well, I think the Bills are in a spot too where I'm sure it's not going to stop because Josh Allen's just another psychopath. But like, they don't need Josh Allen to run touchdowns in right now. I mean, he's going to if he finds a hole. But James Cook has been running great. The Bills have already clinched a playoff. They clinched a division. They clinched a playoff spot already. I think this is just run. Don't get anyone hurt. Stay competitive in games, win games, but don't get anyone hurt. And I think a lot of that goes on the back of James Cook.
He's been top 10 in 4 of his past 5 games too.
Yeah.
He's consistent right now. He's finding the end zone.
That was a fucking beatdown last week in the snow.
It just, got fully out of hand.
Yep.
And he was the only one who seemingly prepared for the snow. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Like he ran perfectly fine. It's always weird when it's like super terrible field conditions and there's that one guy who just glides across the snow or the rain or whatever it is.
LaShawn McCoy.
Great. We've seen Aaron Jones be that guy though, like in a sloppy Green Bay game.
Yeah. LaShawn McCoy, fucking incredible highlights. LaShawn McCoy snow games.
That one against the Lions.
Yeah.
That one was insane. Let's see. Sincere McCormick, he got activated to the active roster because the Raiders put not Trey Tucker.
Madison.
DJ Turner on IR, wide receiver. He was put on IR, so they activated McCormick to the active roster, so he's for sure playing. And if they keep Madison in that secondary role as they should, and Zaire White, they might as well not invite to the stadium. I think we're going to get a decent roll out of McCormick still, and he's probably a low-end flex, but there's desperate people out there during the bye week. I think you can look at them.
Yep. It's a shitty spot because you're gonna put your eggs into the basket on a Raiders running back who hasn't played this yet in a game that you need to make the playoffs. But to your point, the opportunity is there, and that's what you're looking for.
And I will say, if there's a reason to go to buymeacoffee.com/Zach Bruner or just sec. Scan this QR code here.
Oh, nice.
You're gonna get like rookie breakdowns, incoming rookie breakdowns during the offseason and dynasty stuff. Sincere McCormick, guy I love, a guy we talked about in our draft coverage. Not a surprise. If you watch our draft coverage at all in the past, banger after banger after banger after banger. Okay. It's not hard. It's not hard to scout players when you watch them play football.
Well, it's not hard to know that a player's a good player.
No, it's so easy. It's really not hard. And it seems like I'm just talking out of my ass. It seems like, oh, it's not that hard. Like, it's really not. I don't know. I don't know. Offensive line, I have a different advantage. But even in terms of like D-backs, linebackers, stuff like that, you can look at a guy and just tell they're a step above their competition.
Yeah. I don't mean to go on a tangent here, but I agreed with this my entire life. Like the talking heads, the ESPN guys, like I think anyone who sits on the couch and watches football all weekend knows more than they do. Like you watch football, you know what's good, you don't know, you know it's bad. Just go with what you know.
There's so many in terms of draft season, there's so many guys who rely on a select few who watch film. And a lot of times they specialize in a position, sometimes they don't. But a lot of the people who are draft analysts, a lot of people who are talking about the draft, writing up about the draft, they're not actually, they've never really seen these players. Or what you really have to watch out for are the people who put on highlights of the players. Yeah. And then they talk up the players. They say how great this guy is. Yeah, you watched 5 minutes of highlights. Like I can give you a half an hour of lowlights if you'd like. Maybe watch a game. If you watch college football, if you've seen these guys play against the top competition, which is the most important, or if you've seen them play against the lowest competition, you know what they are. If they're consistent, they show up week in and week out, that means a lot going up into the next level. And if they watch football and they love ball, then that means they're probably willing to put in the extra work to get better. But if they're just content collecting a paycheck, then you're not really surprised when they get into the NFL and fizzle out, aka what Carson Beck is probably going to do. Probably clipless after he wins his first MVP or something. But he's not that good either. I don't get the Carson Beck hype. I don't understand it. How did Georgia Tech lose on a swinging gate?
Well, here's the other thing. Like
it's great football, that's why.
I don't remember what show or movie this is from, but like they talk about how like all quarterbacks are attractive. He's not even attractive. Who gave him the football? How is he a quarterback anyways? He looks like a dopey tight end.
He looks like a fish, and he looks like a soccer player with his little half sleeve. And yeah, he's a soccer guy.
I've said it for as long as we had a show. Like, if you're getting a quarterback on your team, you need them to be a franchise culture changer. That's no matter how good or bad they are at football. If they can rally fans and like be a cool person, you have a quarterback for the future.
Mm-hmm.
Carson Beck does not fit that description.
No, unless you want your culture to be, I don't really want to watch football because it stresses you out, then fine. You can say the same thing about Caleb Williams, to be fair. If you want a guy who cries in the stands after a loss and paints his fingernails, say, fuck Utah, then go ahead. That's pretty cool. That really aligns with the gritty, hard-nosed Chicago people, you know? I'm sure that was a great draft pick. Any other running back you want to talk about quickly? I have James Conner low again. I'm at 19. I'm kind of, I don't know.
I'm not ready to give up on him yet.
I'm not ready to give up, but I mean, it's so hard to rank him anything respectable after 7 carries for 8 yards against him 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, I don't know. I still think if Arizona like wants to win this, like I guess does anyone really want to win the division? But if Arizona wants to win the division, I think it has to go. Like James Conner has to be involved. He has to be the guy. He has to be the number one option on this offense because Marvin Harrison isn't going to be. I guess Trey McBride fine, but in order for Trey McBride to get going, I think James Conner has to get going too.
I mean, this is a must-win game, right? If they beat Seattle, then what? They're probably separated by a half game or something.
Yeah,
this is a huge game. I don't know. I don't believe in Arizona at all. Wide receivers quickly. Jamar Chase, number 1 at Dallas. We talked about that game. I have AJ Brown 2 versus the Panthers. Talked about that game. Justin Jefferson 3 versus the Falcons. Talked about that game. Amon-Ra, St. Brown 4 versus the Packers. I know. I'm a little hesitant about that, but he probably is fine.
I mean,
Um,
it's at least 50 yards and a touchdown. It's going to happen.
And boy, he hates the Packers so much. He's so angry.
Fuck them.
And then I agree. And then Puka, I have at 5 versus Buffalo. Debating between him and Mike Evans versus the Raiders, who I have at 6. I like him as well.
There's
But any thoughts?
there's like, and I don't know, maybe just because I haven't watched many ESPN Sports Center shows or whatever. Not many people are talking about like how many diving catches a game Puka Nacua makes. It's incredible. It feels like every single one of his catches, he's diving along the sidelines for it.
I agree. He's throwing his body everywhere. And I love Stafford, but
Yeah.
at some point, he's putting it where only his guy can catch it. I guess.
Yep.
Could just throw it at his chest too, but it is what it is. But I mean, he didn't have a great week last week. I do think he bounces back against Buffalo, though.
Agreed.
I think you can attack. I'm not as high on Cooper or Kupp this week against Buffalo, but I think Puka can do it. Any thoughts about that top 5 or 6, including Mike Evans?
I don't mind Mike Evans either. I said it last show. I said as soon as Mike Evans comes back, he's going to be involved. Like he's as good as Bucky Irvin's been, as good as people don't want to say it, but Rashad White's been good. Like as good as these guys have been. The offense really. Mike Evans, he's a Hall of Fame receiver. The ball's going to go to him when he's in the offense. Like I don't think you need to second guess it.
Trevor?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, personally, I put Mike Evans 5, but I mean, we're arguing over hairs here. I think Mike Evans. I think most people agree this. Not only in fantasy, but just as a player, as much of a bitch as he is, sometimes he's probably the most underrated wide receiver of the last decade. I think it's safe to say. Like I said, in fantasy and in real football. And I think he can still get 1,000 yards. I feel like if that's possible, if I'm remembering correctly how many yards he's at, for a fact that him and Baker know that, and they're going to try to get him there no matter how much that may hurt them. So I like him a lot moving forward because I think that's the thing they're definitely going to try to keep going.
Currently at 521. So, yeah, definitely needs to start putting up some numbers here, but definitely attainable. Running or wide receivers, I like more. I have Calvin Ridley in that revenge game at 9. That's 3 higher.
Love it.
Tyreek Hill
Love
at
it.
10, which is
Love
4
it.
higher. Marvin Harrison Jr. at 20, which is 3 higher. Jameson Williams tomorrow versus the Packers at 24. That's 3 higher. He didn't play the first time against Green Bay. Nothing else super substantial. I'm 3 lower on George Pickens at 12. I'm 5 lower on CeeDee Lamb at 15. 3 lower on Jaden Reed, as I always am, at 25. 7 lower on Brian Thomas, as I always am, at 31. 5 lower on Debo at 35. 6 lower on Christian Watson at 43. 5 lower on Quentin Johnston at 50. I'm playing all the hits this week. What do we think about that?
I mean, history repeats itself. I agree 100% with you.
Like, I just brought up that list. I'm like, oh, everybody I hate. Okay, great. Let's just go boom, 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 boom.
At first, you cut out, and I thought you said Marvin Harrison at 3, and I was like, wait a second, something's not right here. But yeah,
No.
I mean, it all makes sense to me. Like, we know who these guys are at this point. So, I mean, it's kind of hard to. I don't want to say it's hard to miss, obviously, because there's changes from week to week. But I mean, we know Marvin Harrison isn't going to put up a wide receiver 1 performance. That happened once. They said they'd get him involved, and I think he didn't have a catch for like the first quarter and a half. Like we just know what he's going to bring to the table.
And they were some like huge bad play happened, and he's just looking dopey on the bench. Like, I don't know. He's skilled, but I don't think he has a competitive bone in his body. I hear the exact opposite, but I don't see it at all. Him and Kyler Murray are the same personality, same person to me. Maybe they feel like they say they're competitive and then they do nothing to back it up.
You can say you're competitive all you want, but when there's a camera on you at all times and you never look competitive at all, I find that hard to believe.
Like, if Marvin Harrison had George Pickens' mentality in him, he might be, or Malik Neighbors, I guess, for that matter. Like, he would be one of the top 5 receivers in the NFL.
He would be George Pickens.
Fair enough. Fair enough. George Pickens is a little much. He needs to dial it down a little bit.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I have a receiver
Love him,
that just curious you guys' thoughts of this week in the same game. Jackson Smith and Jigba.
He did super well against Arizona last time. I'm interested to see if I'm higher or lower on DK, because DK has been really bad.
Mm-hmm.
One of these times he's gonna bust it. So I have him at, I'll look in a second, I guess. Consensus is at 21. I have him at 22. I mean, the exact thing I said about him last time he played Arizona is I assume Buda Baker cheats on his side, and then everything else is going to be open underneath for Seattle. That's what happened. I don't know why Arizona would play it differently, I suppose. But one of these weeks, DK is going to have that 80-yard touchdown. Like he just is. And if Buda doesn't cheat to his side, it will be this game, because I don't trust anybody else on that defense. So that's where it gets a little tough. But I do like Jackson Smith and Jigba. He feels safe, does he not?
I agree. I don't think that you're fretting if you have him in your lineup and you need to win this week.
No. And obviously I have him in one of our dynasty leagues, and like the first half of the year, every time I played him, like, I really don't feel good about it. And just like the past few weeks, finally I'm like, okay, like I know he's a stud, and finally I feel like the Seahawks realize that as well. Like we can utilize him as a go-to weapon and thrive. It's fine.
Yep.
Yeah. I like him a lot. Tight ends quickly here. I have Brock Bowers number 1 at Tampa. He's been insane. I have Trey McBride 2 versus Seattle. Also been insane. Travis Kelce 3.
Insane how many touchdowns Trey McBride does not catch.
Yeah. That if he caught 5 touchdowns on the year,
if he got 3.
Insane. 3, fair enough. Yeah, he's a 20-20 player. He'll work that middle of the field. He'll get you down there, and then
you gotta have guys like that, though.
You do. He's really good at it. He's incredibly talented. He's so good. Dare I say he could be the next Travis Kelce. I'd put him over Brock Bowers, in my opinion. Travis Kelce 3 though versus the Chargers. George Kittle 4 versus the Bears. Could be a big George Kittle game.
Agreed.
And then I have Jonnu 5 versus the Jets. Hawkinson at 6 for the people who were talking about him before. Anybody stand out? Anything crazy to say there?
Just Jonnu Smith. I think just keep rolling him up, keep letting him go. He's been good, the last 3-4 weeks. In a position that's so not great. If you're getting production out of anyone, I think you just keep riding. Not that he's a hot hand, just that he's playing well enough that you're not losing games starting him. Actually, you might be winning some games starting him. So I'm riding Jonnu Smith until, and now we're kind of getting in the murky zone, right? It's easy to say until he shows you that's not going to do it. But I don't know. Like you said, the Jets have been good coverage. Do they take away Tyreek Hill? Do they take away a Jalen Waddle? We kind of saw the Packers do that last week, and Jonnu Smith, 8 for 10 catches for 113 yards. I can see something similar this week for him.
He's been another guy though too. After the catch, he's been very, very good.
Yeah.
So Jets have to hit him. They have to tackle him, and that's been something that's been inconsistent at best in New York. Luke, I think in the preseason we talked about, I cannot wait for the week when we can pick up Cam Akers, because he's going to be
this week.
And play him. No, it's already happened. He's been good, but I say that to say we are now at the Juwan Johnson part of the season as well.
Yeah. Yep. This is when you ride him up. You can ask Trevor about that. Taysom Hill's playing hurt.
He's done. Torn ACL. He's done for the year.
Oh, you're right. I don't really trust this Saints run game. If they have to run, Juwan Johnson's gonna be in blocking. I love it. And I don't see why the Saints would take him off the field at all moving forward.
I don't love him this week, but boy, if he doesn't catch a touchdown, I might be surprised.
Yeah, I agree.
Feels,
that's what I feel every week, to be honest, though.
Yeah, at this point, we're at the bet Jonnu Smith, or not Jonnu Smith, Juwan Johnson anytime touchdown every week part of the
Yeah.
season. And it's going to be profitable. We should do that. That's something I'm going to look up. It's last 2 seasons, right? Not 3. I think 2. In terms of he's done this.
Oh
Yeah, it's 2.
2022, 2023, now
Oh yeah,
2024.
it's 2022. I remember quite fondly.
Shout out
Okay.
Juwan Johnson and Jerick McKinnon.
Yes. Jerick McKinnon. That's one I'm kind of surprised San Francisco didn't go after.
Yeah.
That's one. Yeah, that's interesting. Maybe they did. He might have said no, which very fair.
I wouldn't mind
other-
Green Bay getting Jerick McKinnon, to be honest, but
Same. There's a few guys. Is Dallas Goedert hurt? He has to be hurt, right?
yeah.
He is. It sounds like it'll be Calcaterra next week.
Okay, yeah. Non-participant today with a knee injury. Not surprising, right? Because Devontae Smith's back. So get one more of those guys
You're
out
not-
again.
I said it earlier in the show. You're not supposed to overlook teams in the NFL. They don't need Dallas Goedert to play. They're winning this game against the Panthers 350-0.
They don't need him to play, but they haven't played healthy since week 1. Like, they need to put it together at some point. It's insane. Thank you, Randy. Incredible podcast this week. It's so incredible. You can go to volume1.org/best of and vote for the Flurry Sports Podcast.
Where's
Vote
the
for
link?
Lombardi. I don't have it here. But I can drop it in the chat.
How are we supposed to win if you don't have the link ready, man? Come on.
What are you talking about? I have the link right there. So it should go out to everybody there. Not
Sure enough.
Facebook. Looks like not Facebook. There we go. Facebook figured it out. Good job, Meta. Go there, sign up with as many emails as you would like, or Facebook logins as you have. You can vote for as many podcasts as you want, but really, you just want to vote for Flurry Sports Podcast, Lombardi Sweep. And if you're feeling frisky, you can go to the I Don't Think So podcast and Fantasy Football by Committee as well. If we win, live award show, accepting an award. I don't know how much time there is for speeches, but we will use every second and go a little bit over. A lot of people to thank. So definitely go and vote there until Friday, I think.
It's the 6th, so it's Friday. Yeah.
Whew.
Hey,
This is the most time we've ever had.
I've already voted 5 times, so hop on the bandwagon.
And if there's anybody with an abnormally large family, you can do that. Sign up, get them all to sign up and vote. If there's anybody with means to rig an election, go ahead. At this point, there's been talks about rigging elections, and at this point, make them stop it. You know what I mean? We got
Listen.
10 security systems here.
Listen, is this, in the grand scheme of things, a dumb award? Yes.
No.
Does that mean we don't want it? Absolutely not. We want this award a lot worse than people think.
Trevor, Florida Sports Podcast has been the award-nominated podcast for far too long. How do we lose to 30 for 30 barely? Like 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And now we can't beat a credit union.
The better question is how did a hockey podcast with like 500 people who watch it of all time play second and then not even be included this year?
I don't know.
This
I don't
is
know.
this
Debauchery.
bullshit.
There's something happening.
Make
And-
them give us an award.
Make them not invite me back to next year's award show because I will
There
take shots at everybody during the
there
awards.
are rumblings that if we win the award, dog memberships have a % off. There are rumblings.
Fuck it. We will we'll live stream the entire speech for members. That feels like a guarantee to me.
That alone
That
is going to
feels-
be worth it.
Yeah, that feels like a minimum. Yeah, we will get we'll get everybody memberships, okay? You get a membership, you get a membership. Everybody will be in there. Everyone's invited to the award show. It'll be a great time. We'll make it happen. It'll be fun. Anything we want to say before we drop off and then come immediately back to the Lombardi Suite?
I think that's a good place to drop off, to be honest.
It does. It does. If you have any fantasy questions whatsoever, definitely check out flurrysports.org. We got a bunch of articles up, but you can tweet at us You can skeet at us and Blue Sky. You can do anything and everything. Drop questions after this video. Drop questions at the last second, like Martin here.
Yes,
he
we
has
should,
Sam
Martin.
Laporta. Should I pick up Juwan Johnson as a backup? Here's the thing. You're not starting him over Laporta unless Laporta gets hurt, though, right?
No.
The thing is, this is the thing with Juwan Johnson. He will catch multiple touchdowns down the stretch.
Yep.
You will never, ever, ever want to start him. That's the
Yep.
whole thing with Juwan Johnson.
It
If-
feels good. It feels
If
good
you
when
want
get
to
it.
reap the benefits of Juwan Johnson, you have to start him every week now.
Yep.
Is there a better feeling in fantasy than starting a random dart throw tight end and then they catch a touchdown pass? That might be the
Nope.
most
It's up there.
elation you could
It's up
feel in
there.
fantasy.
It's up there.
Or DFS, like if you're playing a big DFS tournament and you're just you got that minimum guy, you just need that minimum guy to score a touchdown. And holy shit,
It was
fullbacks
my,
go crazy on DFS.
it was my first like real rush playing DFS. It was Marcus Mariota's rookie season, and I was in like a 1,000-person Green Bay league, and I started him and I took first place. He had like a 92-yard rushing touchdown. It was fucking incredible.
That is good. That is good. Yeah. So should you pick him up? I wouldn't drop anybody worthwhile for him, but he'll probably be a fun one to own.
Keep on your
Lions do
radar.
want to get Sam Laporta more involved down the stretch, according to them, and I'm just going to believe them at this point.
Well, and here's the thing too. If nothing else, picking him up means your opponent does not have Juwan Johnson. And as somebody who has faced Juwan Johnson and who has lost in fantasy to a team that was nowhere near him because of Juwan Johnson, I am terrified to play Juwan Johnson, and you should be too.
Mm-hmm. That's very true. If there's a gun in the room, you want to be the one to hold it. Don't let your opponent grab the gun and kill you. You know, just gotta be a little bit smart. Be a little bit smart. We'll leave you on that. We'll come immediately back for Lombardi Sweep, talking about the Packers tomorrow night versus the Lions. A lot of good fantasy stuff to take away from that with injury report, betting lines, stuff like that. So come back in a sec.